Nick, let's talk about the Seattle Seahawks. Everyone knows the Seahawks doing really well right now overall, but I think there's a little bit more depth and nuance to how this team has been structured and some really good insights to the future of this team. I think Seahawks fans are going to love what we break down today. We'll get into all that in just 1 second. But first, I'm Andrew, that's Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, Nick, as I alluded to, some really interesting insights to how this team has been structured for the Seahawks and the marriage between John Schneider and Mike McDonald. They've built something special here. And I think that, people might not realize exactly how good the Seahawks are set up here and what it's looking like as far as this roster is going forward. Let's get into the article and then we'll break down some of the data behind it on the other side. So this first over from SI.com says, according to new data, the Seahawks not only have one of the youngest rosters in the league, we all know that, heard about that, something we already knew, but also one of the best. The 9-3 Seahawks sit in one of the most enviable positions in the entire NFL. Not only are they younger than almost every other team, but their players are already producing at a high level and still have several quote-unquote prime years left before hitting the typical age declines at their positions. In other words, Seattle isn't just talented right now. They're talented, young, and built to keep getting better. Key right there. They're going to keep getting better as the years go on, giving them one of the brightest long-term outlooks in the league. And I think when you look at this, there's some examples of teams that aren't built necessarily quite like this Seahawks team. I think a really good example for me, especially at the quarterback position, but there's some other, things around, is like a few years ago with the Los Angeles Rams have kind of pivoted and it's become a younger team now. But when they go out and get Matt Stafford, that felt like a team that was built to win right now. And they did, and it panned out for them. And they've shifted, and now I think it's still a young roster, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But offense, you're kind of, Puka Nacua, how long is he going to play for? You keep saying he might retire early. Matthew Stafford, the guy's been around a long time. Devontae Adams certainly has been around a long time. There's a lot of guys on that side of the ball that are very, very good, but 5 years from now, what are they going to be looking like? How is that team going to shake out? What's the key there? And I think that's what's going on here with the Seahawks. They've built something that I think is really good right now, but also 5-6 years from now, it'll probably be even better than they are currently. So let's bring up and show you a neat graphic I saw on X over by Anthony Reinhard. Just broke down some data, some analytics, talking about average point differential versus prime years left for each position group, and they average it all together. It has some really interesting stuff going on here. And as you can see, up vertical axis shows how good a team is versus how bad they are closer to the bottom, and left to right, left is how old they are versus right is how young they are. So we can see, for instance, the Washington Commanders, they're very old and they're not that good. You can see, for instance, the Jets, they're very young, but they're also not that good. Their average point differential is not good. See a team like the Broncos, see teams like the Colts, they're good, but they're on the older side. Pittsburgh Steelers, older but bad. But now we see the top right-hand corner, teams like the Green Bay Packers, Seattle Seahawks, they are very young and very good, and Seattle is the best team as far as average point differential. They are head and shoulders above everyone, and they're just about the youngest team out there as far as that goes as well. And I think they're really built something special here. And just to give you an idea of all the great players Seattle has and how they've structured it and what kind of prime years they have left, let's look at a graphic that I have made here, going off some of this data as well as calculating some of the prime years left for their position. And we have, first up, Sam Darnold, great quarterback. He has 4 prime years left in him. If you look at the metrics quarterback, I think 32 years old is the prime age for quarterbacks. He's 6th overall in the NFL and 5th in passing. Very good. Jackson Smith and Jigba, wide receiver. He's 6 prime years left. That's great. He's 1st overall and 1st in receiving. Kenneth Walker, a running back. It's really great to have a running back that's got some prime years left because they don't last too long. He's still got 4 prime years left. He's second overall as a running back, and first in rushing. Zach Charbonnet, another running back. Again, great to have that. 5 prime years left. Seventh overall and sixth in rushing. 2 extremely great running backs on this team. We got AJ Barner, the tight end. 7 prime years left for him. He's very young, but he started off really well. He's 13th overall at his position, but he's 11th in receiving amongst tight ends. So already almost in the top 10 for receiving, and he's going to just get better, folks. He's got 7 prime years left in him. Then we got Charles Cross, offensive tackle, 6 prime years left. Love to see that. He's 24th overall, not looking it's too hot, but you look at pass blocking, he's 7th in the NFL amongst tackles at pass blocking, so very good there. Got Josh Jobe, the DB. He's 3 prime years left. He's 4th in pass rush amongst DBs and 8th in run defense, a guy that can come off the edge and just absolutely cause chaos. Devon Witherspoon, the young DB, doing a lot of great stuff. 6 prime years left for him. He is 2nd overall, 2nd in pass rush, and 4th in coverage. So can disrupt from the edge, or he can drop back in coverage and be one of the best doing it as well. And then my favorite one, I think the most interesting one to me, Byron Murphy, a guy who's got a ton of prime years left when we're talking about defensive tackles. He's got 8 prime years left. He's 19th overall, top 20, and 8th at pass rushing for interior defensive linemen. He is a disruptor. He is a force at the defensive tackle position for the Seahawks team. So as we can see here, breaking it all down, the Seahawks team is built to be very competitive now. They're one of the best teams in the NFL. If you're looking at metrics, I believe they're 2nd in offense, they're 5th in defense, doing some really great stuff. But as you can see, of the prime years left, this is a team that's just going to get better over the next 3 to 4 years. They're going to have a lot of guys reaching their absolute prime, and we're going to see this team get better over each and every single year here. I think something special is going on with the Seahawks. Curious what your thoughts are on all of this, Nick. But before we get to you, Seahawks fans, in the comments section below, let us know which of these young players that still quite haven't hit their prime, who are you the most excited about? Who do you think is going to become, an absolute superstar, maybe Hall of Fame level of player on this team? Let us know of these young guys that haven't yet reached their prime but are looking really good. Who is the one that you are the most excited about in the comment section below? But nonetheless, Nick, what are your thoughts on everything here for the Seahawks?
So there's a way that teams have been built, and it goes back, decades, right? It's the way it's always worked, I should say, probably in NFL history, but at least in my lifetime, right? You can go back and look at, let's say, the great example of this is the 90s Cowboys with Jimmy Johnson, right? What do? You trade away your star players, build up a young, talented team, let them develop for a few years, add a few veterans as those guys, those young players become veterans, then you start your dynasty. That's what happened with the 90s Cowboys. How about the most recent dynasty, the Kansas City Chiefs, right? They slowly built a young core, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones, right? They got a young core, or they got a veteran quarterback in Alex Smith to kind of, hunker down and stabilize until they bring in their young gun, Patrick Mahomes. The team grows up, they become a veteran team, and then they start a dynasty, right? That's the way it's always been done. That's the model you have to follow. You have no chance of winning if you have a young team across the board. You got to have a young team to build up a core, but then you need veterans. You need them to grow up. A young team cannot win. The Seattle Seahawks are proving that wrong, and that should terrify the rest of the National Football League. We've seen young teams win in the past. We've seen young teams get hot and win a lot of games. The Patriots are kind of like that. This year's a great example. But the reality is those young teams, it's sort of fool's gold. If you look at the Patriots, right, everyone talks about their schedule. They play a really easy schedule, right? They've had a lot of breaks go their way. They've been incredibly healthy. The Seattle Seahawks have had a lot of bumps, right? They've had their fair share of injuries, just like most teams have, but they haven't been 100% healthy. They play in a brutal, brutal division. The 49ers are playoff teams. The Rams are one of the best teams in football, and the Arizona Cardinals are a feisty bunch. They're a whole lot better than their record would indicate. Yet the Seattle Seahawks are winning. They're a super young team, new quarterback. You're talking OC, first year in the system, young head coach. Every single metric that you want to identify and say, yeah, there's no way this team should be a contender. The Seahawks hit it, right? They basically align with totally rebuilding teams like the New Orleans Saints, except for one key factor, the most important one. They're playing great football. These young guys, every single one of them, for the most part, are stepping up. And like you brought up with your metrics and the data, the individual performances are playing like elite stars already. Again, the model forever is get the young guys, let them develop over 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and then you'll have a star team. That's the model. The Seahawks have a star team now, and they're still developing. They're still young. And that should terrify, like I said a second ago, the rest of the NFC, the rest of the NFL. Because if the Seahawks can continue this unprecedented track they're on, it almost doesn't matter what the quarterback position is. And I know Sam Darnold's had a really nice year. He's done a lot of good things. Jalen Milroe's the backup. Could he become the long-term answer? Obviously that's a question for another time. But it almost doesn't matter because this team is just stacked. We've done film reviews of Seattle over the past couple of weeks, breaking down some of their players, some of their young guys, some of their veterans. But across the board, they've got guys. We talked about DeMarcus Lawrence yesterday, actually. He's a guy that's had an awesome season for the Seattle Seahawks. He hasn't even had to play a lot of snaps, right? They've got young guys competing for every inch, every second. That's secondary, right? They've had a lot of injuries, a lot of volatility. They're all battling. Wide receivers, again, they've got some talented guys that aren't even getting opportunities. They've got Elijah Arroyo, a really talented receiving threat who they love as a blocker because they don't need him as a receiver right now because everybody else is stepping up. We know the running game, right? Robbie Oots as a fullback, right? The offensive line, Zabel, and everybody else, right? I'm just talking rookies, right? You go back 2-3 years, there's a lot of younger guys that, recent draft classes that are crushing as well. This team, the way it's set up right now, should not be as good as they are. And it's not miraculous. They haven't gone on a crazy run. They weren't like the Commanders last year that, were winning on Hail Marys and stuff like that, doing kind of fluky stuff. Seattle has obliterated people. They've demolished people. The only games they lose is because of takeaways, right? Like against the Rams where Donald threw 1 million interceptions. When they play their game, they don't just win, they dominate. And when you look at the age of this team and you look at the prime years left, and I love that table you pulled up, what do you do if you're the NFC West? The Rams are a good team, good coach, for sure. Stafford's at the end of his career. What do? The Cardinals, what do you do with Kyler Murray? The 49ers, right? They're in a transition. Shanahan's a phenomenal coach. But what do you do? Because you got a team in Seattle that's only going to get better. And they're only going to get better for the next 5 years. This isn't something where you can wait out one season and say, okay, Seattle's going to go all in 2026 or whatever, and then we can take them after that. Seattle's only going to get better. And that sets the NFC West in a terrible position, sets the entire NFC in a terrible position. The Philadelphia Eagles went all in, right? Last year, this year, and the following year based on their contract structures. Right now, they're looking at the Seattle Seahawks and the top team in the NFC, in my opinion, them and the Rams, Seattle and Los Angeles. And the Eagles are like, we're not better than them now, and they're only going to get better, and we're going to get worse. You look at the NFC South, right? The Buccaneers probably going to win that division. What do? Right? They don't have any answers. They can't overcome Seattle, right? You go across the board, nobody can. Even the Green Bay Packers, who literally traded everything for their future to get Micah Parsons to chase a championship, right? The reality is in 1 or 2 years, they're going to be in a total reset mode. The Seattle Seahawks are only going to get better, and Seattle's better than them right now. That's the incredible job by this front office, John Schneider, Mike McDonald, everybody across the board. People aren't paying attention to this, and I'm glad you did the data, you did the analysis, and you did the research, Miles, because I think it's really important for people to understand how good Seattle is now. We've talked about that a lot, but how good they're going to be. They're only scratching the surface of their potential. They are only going to get better. Year 1 of their offensive coordinator. Year 2 of their head coach / defensive coordinator. So many young guys, so many rookies playing. First-year quarterback. Darnold's first year with the Seattle Seahawks, right? Every single element that you would think a bad team would have, new quarterback, new coordinators, right? Young team, the Seattle Seahawks have, but they're great. They're only going to get better, and they're already great. And that is what makes this team, I think, the most dangerous team in football, not just this year, but for probably the next 5 years. Phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal job by John Schneider.